So we have a pretty spicy update. A pretty spicy update in terms of the list. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. The potential people that may be on that list, but also a little more information about whose names are actually going to be released. Many of which aren't going to be like the bad actors, but in fact they will be people who were named as those who suffered the consequences of the list. But interestingly enough, there was a last second stay of kind of like delay on some of the names. But as of right now, we now know starting today, they will begin releasing the names on the list on a rolling basis. The release of more than 150 names mentioned in court documents from a civil case was postponed. A judge has delayed the unsealing of two of the does. These are people who are on the receiving end or people that sued until the 22nd, which is really not that far away. But the rest of the names will be unsealed on a rolling basis starting today, with an executive in the Southern District of New York confirming this to News Nation. Now, again, this list is going to be largely people that were complainants of people that were on the island against their will or people that were suing. But also, there certainly could be names of people who took advantage of them or who they said they saw on the island, right? Now, maybe this adds some credence to just how, the level of freak out that Jimmy Kimmel had yesterday when Aaron Rodgers made a little jab at him potentially being on the list. Now, ultimately, do I believe that Jimmy's on the list? I don't know. But I bet his bosses are, or people he knows are, or people he pals around with. And when we know that his best friend was the guy's personal chef, for crying out loud. Now, a lot of people will say this is weak. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. This isn't, XYZ's name's not on the list. I'm never going to see the names. So none of this matters. I understand why people feel that way. I really do. I disagree, though. I think that it does matter because even low-level people or entry-level people could open doors to more people. Hey, this is somebody's assistant. Oh, why is your assistant there? Weren't you there? All this kind of stuff. It can allow people to connect more dots. Delay for some of the names comes after a judge granted a 30-day extension to one person to consider appeal to remain confidential. Essentially, someone that sued says, hey, this is going to put my life or my family at risk. I don't want my name. A judge ruled that the names could be unsealed beginning January 1st. However, court was closed on that date because of New Year's. These documents come from a settled lawsuit that Virginia Guffrey filed against Ghislaine. The Miami Herald has been fighting to unseal the documents filed as part of a lawsuit back from 2018. The legal battle escalated in December when U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska, rest in peace, ordered the names could be unsealed beginning January 1st. Preska ordered some names be redacted to protect anonymity of people who were underage or who were on the receiving end of the crimes, which I understand. I understand why you do that. It would be interesting, though, if it was like, what if there were some famous people on that list? Some famous people who, I don't know, were given opportunities to stay quiet. Sure, they were, bad things happened to them, but now let's say they have a late night talk show host, for example, or something, a talk show host or something like that. Now, Preska, of course, orders some of the names be redacted due to the anonymity of people who are too young. Guffrey claimed that the two pressured her as a teen to hook up with powerful men, including Prince Andrew. Those men denied the claims, and Guffrey later settled a lawsuit against Prince Andrew out of court. Well, she probably got paid off. Now, we can't know that. we can't know for sure, but, you know, it's interesting. People named in the documents are unlikely to face prosecution if they haven't already. Criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson told News Nation on Monday. These names were actually kept secret because the judge found that because they did not do anything wrong, there wasn't any reason to point to releasing and embarrass them. Several, quote, prominent names are expected to be mentioned in the documents. According to ABC News Report, one of the names in the redacted filings is that of former President Bill Clinton, otherwise identified as John Doe 36. He is mentioned in at least 50 filings. Federal prosecutors in New York went on to revive the case against Jeffrey after a series of stories by the Miami Herald back in 2018 brought renewed attention to the matter. In 2019, New York prosecutors said they were not bound by any previous non-prosecution deal, and he was arrested again. Of course, he's no longer on the planet due to, you know, all the cameras being off and, you know, the judges not being there. And it was all a coincidence, guys. It was all a coincidence. The fact that, I've got to be honest with you, let me know in the chat or in the comment section down below. How surprised are you that Ghislaine is still around? I'm just saying. I literally can't believe it. I can't believe it. Can you? I genuinely can't believe it. Now, there will be people that say like, hey, you know, just because you're on the list, you know, that doesn't necessarily you participated, you know, it doesn't mean you participated in anything. And that is true. There were people that, you know, borrowed his jet or, you know, everything like that, this, that, and the other thing. It's possible, you know, but you probably knew about it. Right? So Tim Pool writes, this is not the list. It's the names involved in a lawsuit, which could include those on the receiving end of crimes, unrelated third parties alongside his clients and associates. But I believe it's still very, very helpful. Malcolm Flex writes, there's so much confusion around this list that they're going to keep it that way willingly in order to ensure that there's too much collateral damage will ensue if actions are taken. Others write, it may not be the list itself, but it will contain people who have been considered on the list. Lots of semantics in this discussion. I still think there's an absolute ton of value in this list because it will just add a lot of credibility to things, you know, to whether or not, you know, certain people were there. I mean, you don't visit the island 50 times and not know what's going on. I will say that is at least at a minimum, right? At a minimum, you're going, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't visit the island a dozen times and not know what's going on there. So at minimum, if you were there, you knew what was going on, right? You knew what was going on. It was probably a honeypot to get dirt on the world's most powerful people, and that's why so many people skated on it. You know, why so many people, you knew at least. You know, it's an unredacted, the expectations are, it's unredacted court documents from a trial that will reveal 170 names of affiliates. It's still big. It's going to be just going to be a ton of rumors and attempts to skew stuff. I still think it's important. The more we know, the better. The more pieces of the puzzle we can put together, the better. You know, it will be released today with the first names. I mean, I think that, like, this is kind of a big deal. I mean, don't you guys think? I do. I think it's kind of a big deal. Especially if we're going to see a new name. You see the long-awaited list of 187 of his friends and associates will be released, with the first names dropping today. The court which holds the papers has confirmed. That's interesting to me. Very, very interesting to me. Bill Clinton, who flew on the infamous private jet, is expected to be among those names, as is Prince Andrew, but we already knew about both of them. All have denied wrongdoing or having any involvement in underage women, and none have been charged. Well, I'm not surprised none of them have been charged. Again, if you were there numerous times, if you knew these people, you knew what was going on. In the settled filing, Guthrie, accused, Jeffrey of trafficking her and the stuff, which we all know was likely to be the case. And you just see these people all, looking around, all the pictures. It's all just gross. So I'm a big fan of them releasing the list. I think it's nothing but a good thing, even if it's not, the whales. Sometimes you can put together a bunch of little fish and still, have a nice meal. And that's what I'm hoping for. Any surprises, anybody that you think's going to be on there? I mean, the way Jimmy Kimmel reacted yesterday, he seemed nervous. Boy, that would be interesting. So it's going to have to be, it's going to be interesting. It's going to open a lot more conversations. And I'm 100% here for it.